Hello everyone, welcome to this 38th online lecture session of the course Engineering Thermodynamics. In the previous lecture, we have discussed about the Joule-Thomson coefficient and I have introduced to you the concept of exergy. Okay, so if I quickly revisit what we have covered in terms of exergy. So I have told you that exergy is having some other synonyms also, availability and available energy. Then we have taken one case of fuel air system. So in first case, we were having 100% fuel. In second case, we were having something around 60% of fuel, and in last case we were having actually no fuel. Okay, so what has happened, everywhere we were having the content of energy. Say if E1 is here if it is E2, so E2 was equal to E1, and then in third case we were having E1 equal to E2 equal to E3. So it means energy content in all three cases was different. But what were the difference between all three? So here we were having all the energy stored in the form of internal energy, which was having difference of temperature as T plus dt. Okay, so say if I take T temperature over here, so over here the temperature of air was T plus dt, where this dt is nothing but small change in the temperature. Okay, and over here we were having temperature as T only. All of you please mute your microphone. And we were having all the energy, almost entire energy stored in the form of chemical energy of the fuel. So then I told you one thing, that if I have to utilize this energy from the third system, over here I can maximum transfer some amount of heat, and by using that heat transfer actually I can do some work. Okay, so now if I consider that I connect over here some heat engine, so if I am transferring some heat, so obviously I can connect over here some heat engine. So if I connect some heat engine, in one side of the heat engine we will be having temperature as T plus dt, and in other side if I say that my ambient temperature is T naught, and that ambient temperature is equal to T naught for the initial condition when we are having no energy added by the fuel. So then this system will be operating with ambient at temperature T naught. So now you can see the difference between ambient temperature and the temperature which is there within the system, that is very, very small. So that's why the efficiency, even if it operates in reversible fashion, then also the efficiency of this heat engine will be very small. Okay. However, in first situation, what I can do, instead of heating the infinite amount of air, large amount of air, I can take over here some small quantity of air. Okay, so here what I can do, I can take small quantity of air and I can heat that small quantity of air. So if in place of infinite quantity, I will be heating small quantity of air, so that quantity of air will be getting temperature as nothing but T plus delta T, where this delta T represents the finite temperature difference. Now by heating that small quantity of air in between T plus delta T and our ambient, I can operate some heat engine, and that heat engine will obviously give us some better efficiency, because in third situation we are having the temperature of the source and sink temperature difference is very, very small, whereas in first situation in between the source and sink, which is connecting our heat engine, we are having finite temperature difference between the two. So obviously in first case we will be having better efficiency of the machine, so we will be having better chance for converting some amount of heat into work. Okay, so that's why we have concluded that first situation is having the highest X. So this particular situation, whatever I have shown over here, I told you that it is having the highest value of exergy. Okay, and in last case we are having lowest exergy out of these three. Okay, so it means exergy is one important property which has to be specified along with the energy in order to determine whether a source of energy is having how much potential for doing or converting that energy into equivalent amount of work. Okay, then we have this dead state and surrounding. So in case of dead state, I told you that if my conditions of the system, its pressure, temperature, velocity and potential head all are equivalent to that of the surrounding, in that case we will be calling that our system has reached in the dead state. Okay, then we were having another explanation related to the surroundings. So I told you that anything outside the system is called as surroundings. Okay, and if we are having system and some process is happening inside the system, then if we are having some immediate region in the vicinity of the system which is affected by the process that is happening inside the system, that particular portion is referred to as immediate surrounding, and anything outside that immediate surrounding is referred to our environment. Okay, and environment is actually not affected by the changes which are happening inside our system. Okay, now let me give you one example. Let us consider that we are having one piston cylinder system. Okay, so in this piston cylinder system, let me consider that initial pressure is P1 and initial volume is V1. And let us consider that outside our surroundings is having pressure of equal to P0, say temperature of equal to T0. Okay, so now what will be happening? What I can do, I can like expand this piston if I say that the initial pressure P1 is actually greater than P0. Okay, so what will be happening if I plot now the PV diagram? Say this is my starting point, point number 1, where my pressure is P1 and volume is V1. Okay, so now if I allow this piston cylinder arrangement to expand, so say I have expanded this to some state 2 where value of pressure is P2 and value of volume is V2. Okay, so say this is my some state number 2. So now what will be happening? We know that work done by the system is nothing but integral PdV. So over here we are doing this integration from 1 to 2, and obviously this integral PdV will depend upon the path of the system. So I can say that work done by the system will be nothing but a function of path of the process. It will be a function of path of the process. It will depend upon initial state of the system. Okay, because we are doing some integration from initial state to final state of the system, and it will be function of final state of the system. Okay, so let us consider what we are considering, that this piston is actually expanding in reversible fashion. If it is expanding in reversible fashion, then only I can write this integral PdV 1 to 2. Okay, so now one important thing you can see, so say I have expanded this piston up to some thermodynamic state number 2 which is having pressure P2, and let us consider that this P2 is also greater than P0. So if I say that this P2 is greater than P0, it means my system is further having potential to expand the piston. Okay, because mechanical equilibrium will only be established once the pressure of the system will be equal to pressure of surroundings. So if pressure of the system is more in comparison to pressure of surroundings, so it means this piston is having, this system is having further potential in order to expand the piston and to do some more amount of work. Okay, so in that case what I can do, if I allow this piston to further expand, it will be further expanding till it reaches the pressure value of P0. Okay, so once it reaches the pressure value of P0, after that it will not be having any potential to do work. Okay, any potential to expand that piston. So it means if it is not having any further potential to expand the piston, it means it has reached in the mechanical equilibrium. Okay, so now I can see that if piston is expanding in reversible fashion, and if I do this integral of PdV from point number 1 to point number 0, where 0 represents nothing but my dead state of the system. So I will be having, so this work when I am expanding this PdV from 1 to 0 will be more in comparison to the amount of work which we have extracted while I was expanding the piston from state number 1 to state number 2. So it means that maximum amount of work we will be obtaining from a system when it is reaching to the state of the surroundings, when it is reaching to the dead state. Okay, so this is one very, very important. If we mechanically see maximum amount of work, we will be able to obtain unless or until our system pressure is reaching till the pressure of the dead state. Similarly, if I talk about in terms of heat transfer, so if I say consider that T is my temperature, inside temperature and outside is T0. So if I say that T is greater than T0, in that case, I will be having certain potential for transferring the heat. So if I have certain potential for transferring the heat, I can connect some heat engine in between the system and surroundings, and some part which is actually allowable to convert into amount of work, that part actually I can utilize. Okay, so that's why whenever we are having our system with properties, with conditions other than the conditions of surrounding, it means if it is not in thermodynamic equilibrium with the surrounding, then that particular system will be having certain potential to do work. Okay, and if we have to find out that what is the maximum potential to do work from a system, that maximum potential will be, we will be only able to extract the maximum potential once we are changing the thermodynamic state of the system from its given state to dead state. Okay, so this is one very, very important point, that if we have to extract the maximum potential of work from a system. So maximum potential of work from a system will be extracted when we are changing the thermodynamic state of the system from given state to its dead state, because once system has reached to its dead state, then it will not be having any further potential to do the work. Okay, so the maximum work potential is actually something which is called as exergy. So what we call the maximum work potential that system is having while it is operating in reversible fashion, and finally it is reaching to the dead state, that maximum potential is called as actually exergy. Okay, now one important point I would like to highlight, though we are saying that exergy is some property of the system, but exergy is not a sole property of the system, because it also depends upon the final state of the system, and final state of the system in case of exergy, every time it has to be equivalent to that of the thermodynamic state of the surroundings. Okay, because we have to bring the system to dead state in order to extract the maximum potential of work from it. Okay, so that's why while we will be talking about the exergy, we should also know the thermodynamic state of the surrounding, because that is nothing but our final state of the system. Okay, so that's why we call that exergy is some property, and which is actually a joint property of both system and surroundings, because it depends upon surroundings also. Okay, so for example, if I place this piston cylinder arrangement in surroundings of 1 bar, then at max I can bring that piston to 1 bar pressure. And if I place it in a surrounding of say 2 bar, then obviously if my system pressure is more than 2 bar, then at max I can expand that piston to my surrounding pressure of 2 bars. Okay, so that's why this is one very, very important point, that our exergy is a property of the system, but it also depends upon surroundings. Okay, why? Because it represents the maximum work, maximum potential of work that a system is having, and maximum potential of the work while we are extracting from the system, then we have to bring the final state of the system to nothing but our surrounding state. Okay, now when we talk about exergy associated with different kinds of energy, let me give you the general expression of energy. So for energy, if you remember, I have told you internal energy plus flow energy, P into V, flow work, this we also called as flow work. Then we are having some another form of energy which we call as nothing but kinetic energy, and then we have one more energy as potential energy. Okay, then I have told you in earlier classes, if you recall to some of my initial lectures, I told you that these two are the properties which depends upon thermodynamic state of the system. So these depends upon thermodynamic state of the system, and these two depends upon physical state of the system. Okay, and kinetic energy and potential energy, we know these are nothing but our mechanical forms of energy. Okay, so these two are the energies which are nothing but having direct correlation with work. Okay, so if I say that if I take this system over here, say I have some reservoir, and this reservoir is maintained at some height Z, and so this will be having, and we are having some pipe and some turbine over here. So now while this water will be flowing through this pipe, say the flow rate of water is m dot. Okay, so we will be having rate of potential energy as nothing but m dot into gz. So this will be the rate at which we are having potential energy available. Now if we are using some turbine over here, and if I consider that we are having completely reversible situation, because while we are talking about the exergy, we have to talk about maximum content of energy that can be converted into equivalent amount of work. So that's why we will be always considering that our process is reversible while we are talking about the exergy. So if our process is reversible, in case of a reversible process, what will be happening? We will not be having any losses. Okay, so now if we are utilizing this potential head, how we are utilizing? So this potential head is actually creating some pressure drop across this wheel, and this wheel is actually rotating. So consider it as a hydraulic turbine. So while this hydraulic turbine will be rotating, we will be having some shaft work, and maximum amount of shaft work what we can obtain from this system, that will be equal to mass flow rate of water, that will be equal to mass flow rate of water into G into Z. Okay, so this is the amount of shaft work that we will be able to extract from our system. So in that case, I can say that the kinetic energy and potential energy are some mechanical forms of energy which depends upon the physical state of the system. Okay, so both these quantities depends upon physical state of the system. So that's why if our system is operating in reversible fashion, then whatever the amount of potential energy and kinetic energy we will be having available, that will be equivalent to the maximum potential of work. Okay, so over here W dot max is equal to m dot into gz. Similarly, if I say that I have some say stream of air, and that stream of air is flowing at mass flow rate m dot, okay, and say it is having velocity v bar. So what will be my kinetic energy available with this stream of air? So kinetic energy available with stream of air will be half into m dot v bar square. Now if I consider that in front of this stream of air, I am placing some impeller, and this impeller is actually facing this air, and it is actually then rotating, and upon rotation it is giving me some shaft work at the rate of W dot shaft. Okay, so if I consider that we are not having any kind of losses, in that case the maximum amount of shaft work which I can produce from this input available kinetic energy will nothing but be equal to that of the magnitude of this kinetic energy. So it will be equal to half m dot into v bar square. Okay, so this will be my amount of work done which I can extract from the kinetic energy. Now if I talk about internal energy U and flow work PV, these two are the quantities which depends upon the thermodynamic state of the system. Okay, and in terms of internal energy, I have already told you that internal energy, if we have to extract some work from the internal energy, what we have to do, we have to actually either employ some piston cylinder system. If our pressure is greater than the surrounding pressure, then we can allow piston to expand. Or another thing is, we can actually utilize this internal energy. So if say this internal energy is associated with the rise in temperature, then we can allow some heat to transfer in between our system and surroundings, and there we can employ some reversible heat engine, and that reversible heat engine will be actually producing us equivalent amount of work. Okay, so that's why in case of the energies which are related to thermodynamic state of the system, their exergy will not be equal to equivalent amount of energy as we are having in case of kinetic energy and potential energy, which are related with the physical state of the system. Okay. So now let us consider the concept of reversible work and irreversibility. So what I have done, I have and this system is having say initial volume V1 and some system pressure we are having say P. Okay, and now on this system, if we consider that this piston cylinder system is actually located in our atmosphere. Okay, so we will be having atmospheric air outside. Now what I have done, this dashed line I have shown as nothing but the immediate surrounding to this system. So this is nothing but my immediate surrounding to the system. So in this immediate surrounding, obviously we will be having our pressure equal to atmospheric pressure. So that pressure I am calling as P naught. So now, while we are having this piston over here, over this piston, every time we will be having some P naught pressure from the atmosphere, which is actually acting on the system. Okay. Now, after this, what we are having? We are having the second state of the system. So in the second state, we are having some volume V2. Okay. And over here, once again, we are having atmospheric air, and this pressure P naught is there, which is actually acting over the piston. So now you can see during this expansion process, our volume has changed from V1 to V2, and my V2 volume is greater than V1. Okay. So if you see, if you calculate the reversible amount of work during this process, so reversible amount of work will be nothing but equal to integral PdV, and finally that will be equal to, say, it will be integral PdV from 1 point to 2 points. So that will be my reversible work which I can obtain from this system. Okay, but you can see while my volume is changing from delta V1 to V2, so V2 is greater than V1. During that time, let us consider that delta V is the increase in volume. Okay, so delta V, we can say that delta V is equal to V2 minus V1, and this is the amount by which our volume of the system has increased. Okay, now if I consider my immediate surrounding, so let us consider that immediate surrounding we are having initial volume as, say, Vs. So if initial volume of immediate surrounding was Vs, when my initial thermodynamic state of the system was 1, and while my final thermodynamic state of the system is 2, corresponding to that, say, surrounding volume is Vs2. Okay, so it means we can say that in my immediate surrounding, now volume of the system has decreased by amount delta V. So whatever increase of volume we are having in case of our system, by same amount our volume of the immediate surrounding has decreased. So it means our system has, or this piston, while it has expanded, this piston has some amount of work on the immediate surrounding. Okay, why? Because the volume of immediate surrounding has decreased. So it means this system has done certain amount of work on the immediate surrounding. Okay, so if I say that increase in volume of the system is delta V, then my immediate surrounding volume will be equal to Vs minus delta V. Okay, and one more important thing you can see, while this immediate surrounding is actually decreasing its volume, so its boundary while it is contracting, at that time on the immediate surrounding of this system, a constant pressure is acting on the boundary. Okay, and what is that constant pressure? That constant pressure is nothing but equal to P naught. So I can say that we are having over here some surrounding work, and that surrounding work is nothing but equal to integral P naught into dV. And as I told you that in case of immediate surrounding, we are having always on the surrounding side of the piston, we are having always a constant pressure P naught which is acting on the system, which is acting on the piston. So that's why I will be writing P naught as constant. So P naught times integral dV will be V2 minus V1. So Vs2 I have told you as Vs minus dV. So this will be my Vs minus delta V, and then I will be having initial volume as minus Vs. Okay, so finally I will be getting surrounding work as minus P naught times into delta V. Okay, so it means while this piston is doing reversible PdV amount of work, this P naught into delta V amount of work is something which is actually required by the immediate surroundings of the system to contract its boundary. Okay, so this much amount of work is actually consumed by our surroundings. So if this much amount of work is consumed by the surroundings, in that case what will be happening? Whatever the useful amount of work we will be getting from this system, that useful work will be nothing but equal to, reversible work minus surrounding work. Okay, so this is one important relation which I am telling you over here. So you can see that reversibly we have done, or our system has done work equal to integral PdV from point number 1 to 2. However, our surroundings were having pressure P naught and volume delta V, volume has changed for the surrounding. So that's why while system boundary has expanded, it has done certain amount of work on the surroundings. Okay, so P naught into delta V amount of work is actually consumed by the surrounding. So that's why whatever the useful amount of work we are having, which can be utilized for some another purpose, that is nothing but equal to W reversible minus W surrounding. Okay, so now you should be able to differentiate in between the reversible work and the useful work. So reversible is the maximum amount of work that we can extract from a system when we are not having any irreversibility associated, whereas useful work represents the maximum amount of reversible work that can be utilized for certain purpose. Okay, so that includes whatever the work which we are not able to use it. Okay, so that's why in case of work transfer, this useful work is our amount of exergy which is associated with the work transfer. Okay, so now if I define one term irreversibility, if I define some term irreversibility, so irreversibility will represent the magnitude of irreversibility will be nothing but equal to W reversible. So whatever the reversible amount of work we have done minus how much of that reversible is actually our useful work. Okay, so useful work represents the maximum potential work which can be utilized for any purpose. So reversible work minus useful work will be our irreversibility when we are talking about work producing devices. When we are talking about work producing devices, then our irreversibility will be equal to reversible work minus useful work. And if we talk about work consuming devices, in case of work consuming devices, we already know that reversible work will be less in comparison to the actual work consumed. So for work consuming devices, irreversibility is defined as W, whatever we have supplied, actual amount of work minus W reversible. So this is applicable for work consuming devices. Okay, so this expression is applicable for work consuming devices. And if we are having, so this concept of surrounding work will only be coming into picture when our boundary of the system is changing, because if our boundary of the system is changing, then it will change the boundary of immediate surroundings also. Okay, so then our surroundings will also be having P naught into dV work. Okay, so if our boundary of the system is not changing, if our boundary of the system is fixed, in that case exergy will be equal to reversible amount of work. So exergy will be equal to W reversible if our boundary is not changing. So if our boundary is, or I can call it as fixed boundary system. So if I have fixed boundary system, for that exergy will be equal to the reversible amount of work, because we will not be having any work done on the surroundings in that case. Okay, as boundary of system is not displacing. Okay. Then we have another very important concept which we call as second law efficiency. So second law efficiency is actually required for comparing the actual performance of the system. Though we are having some initial first law efficiency also, which we define as thermal efficiency also, which we call as amount of work which is done by the system divided by amount of heat supplied. Okay, so that is something which we call as nothing but our first law efficiency or thermal efficiency of the system. But that efficiency is not sufficient to give us information about the performance of the system, actual performance of the system. Okay, so let me demonstrate this idea with the help of one illustration over here. So you can see I have some source which is having temperature 600 Kelvin and one sink which is having 300 Kelvin temperature and another source at 1000 Kelvin temperature. Now in between the first source and sink, we are having one A heat engine, and we are saying that thermal efficiency of this heat engine is 30%. And in the second source, we are having some another heat engine. For this heat engine also, we are having say 30% thermal efficiency. So the meaning of 30% means if I am say supplying some Q amount of heat to both the engines. So first engine is also giving me work as 0.3 times of the amount of heat supplied. So that is the work I am getting from system A, and similarly from system B also I am getting 0.3 times of heat supplied. So it means whatever amount of heat we are supplying, only 30% of that heat our both systems A and B are converting into equivalent amount of work. Okay. Now if I have to calculate the reversible work done, if I have to calculate reversible work done, in that case what I have to do? In case of reversible work, what I have to do? In case of reversible work, first I have to calculate the reversible efficiencies of these devices. Okay, so the reversible efficiency of device is nothing but equal to 1 minus T2 by T1. So this is how we define our Carnot efficiency. So if you calculate 1 minus T2 T sink divided by T source for the second engine, you will be finding maximum thermal efficiency for system A as 50%. And if you calculate this for the system V, you will be finding maximum thermal efficiency as 70%. So now if you see, this first system is having maximum thermal efficiency as 50%. It means whatever amount of heat you are supplying, at max it can convert 50% of heat into equivalent amount of work. And if you talk about the second system, in case of second system, what we are having, it can convert 70% amount of heat into equivalent amount of work. So now if you compare which one is more efficient and which one is less efficient, can you give me some idea? So now if you compare, you will be coming to know, because this second one is having potential to convert heat into 70% of work, but it is only doing 30%. Whereas in first case, it is having potential to convert 50% of work, 50% of heat into work, but it is doing 30%. So if we compare the two, in between the two, first one is actually more efficient. Okay, so how to calculate that which one is efficient? So for that we define another term of efficiency, which is called as second law efficiency, and we define our second law efficiency as equal to our actual efficiency divided by reversible efficiency. Okay, so the ratio of actual efficiency divided by reversible efficiency we call as nothing but our second law efficiency. Okay, so now what will be happening if I define second law efficiency for system A? So for system A, what I have, actual efficiency is 30%. So actual efficiency is say 0.3, and second law efficiency is 50%, so it is 0.5. So 3 by 5 will be equal to 60%. So you can see over here the second law efficiency for system A is 60%, and second law efficiency for system B is nothing but equal to, for system B, if you see, the second law efficiency is 0.3 divided by 0.7, and if you calculate this ratio of 0.3 by 0.7, it will be close to 43.33%. Okay, so now you can see the second law efficiency of first system is 60%, and second law efficiency of second system is 43%. Whereas if you see in terms of the first law efficiency of both the systems is equal to only 30%. Okay, so that's why second law efficiency is a correct measure in order to find out that what amount of what is the actual performance of the system. So if we have to compare the actual performance of the system, then second law efficiency is actually our main indicator. Okay, so there are some another forms of second law efficiency also. So if I talk about I have called it as eta actual divided by eta reversible. Okay, and actual efficiency, we know actual efficiency is nothing but equal to W actual divided by heat supplied, and reversible efficiency will be W reversible divided by heat supplied. So from here you can see that our second law efficiency will be equal to W actual divided by W reversible. Okay, so this is the value of this is the formulation of second law efficiency for work producing devices. So this is for work producing devices, and if we have a work consuming device, in case of work consuming device, what will be happening?
Reciprocal.
Yes, it will be reciprocal. So in case of a work consuming device, second law efficiency will be equal to W reversible, because reversible work will be less, divided by W actual. Okay. Okay, so this remaining concept of exergy change for closed system we will try to see in the next lecture. Now we'll stop at this point. So today we are having very short lecture, and please do remember that for tomorrow, whatever the lecture link we shared today, that will be applicable. Okay.